On February 11, 2006, Adam Air Flight 782 took off from Jakarta, Indonesia, bound for Makassar. What should have been a routine 2-hour journey turned into a harrowing ordeal that exposed deep-rooted issues within the airline industry. This is the story of how a series of small mistakes snowballed into a potentially catastrophic situation, leaving 146 passengers and 6 crew members lost over the Java Sea. Our story begins on the ground at Jakarta Airport. The Boeing 737-300 aircraft, already 19 years old and not in the best condition, presented its first red flag before even leaving the gate. During pre-flight checks, the pilots discovered a fault with one of the plane's navigation systems, specifically, one of its 2 inertial reference units had failed. These units are crucial for keeping track of the plane's position during flight. The quick fix implemented by Adam Air's maintenance team was to simply swap out the faulty unit for a working one. This approach was symptomatic of a larger problem within the airline. In the previous 2 months alone, engineers had logged 18 problems with this particular aircraft's inertial reference system. Adam Air, a budget airline experiencing rapid growth, was taking major shortcuts in aircraft maintenance. It was only a matter of time before one of these shortcuts had serious consequences. With the faulty unit replaced and seemingly working normally, the captain entered the flight plan into the flight management computer. In modern passenger aircraft, this computer guides the autopilot along the programmed route using information from the inertial reference units. On this fateful morning, the flight management system was receiving its position data from the left-hand inertial reference unit, or IRU1, the one that had been working, not the one that had just been replaced. At 10:06 a.m., Flight 782 pushed back from the gate and began its journey. For the first 15 minutes of the flight, everything seemed normal. The passengers settled in, the fasten seatbelt sign was turned off, and the cabin crew began their service. Little did anyone know that a critical malfunction was about to occur. At 10:25 a.m., unbeknownst to the pilots, the flight management computer quietly switched from IRU1 to IRU2, the unit that had been installed on the ground before departure. While this unit had appeared to work normally during pre-flight checks, it now began to drift, providing false information about the plane's position to the flight management computer. As a result, the plane began a gentle right-hand turn, barely perceptible to the pilots. The navigation displays in the cockpit showed the plane continuing on its intended course, even as it veered further and further off track. The pilots, trained to trust their instruments, had no reason to doubt what they were seeing. A caution message appeared on the flight computer saying, "IRS NAV only," indicating that the plane was getting its position entirely from the inertial reference unit, and not from any ground-based radio beacons. The first officer cleared this message, assuming they were simply out of range of ground stations while flying over the Java Sea. As the flight progressed, the situation worsened. The plane continued its undetected turn to the south, moving further and further from its intended flight path. By the time the pilots began their descent towards what they believed to be Makassar, they were actually hundreds of kilometers off course. The first sign of trouble came as they descended through 28,000 feet. The captain noticed a mountain off to his right, a geographical feature that shouldn't have been there on the route to Makassar. Confused, the pilots checked their navigation displays, which still showed them on course. They took out their maps, trying to make sense of what they were seeing, but nothing matched up. As they continued to descend, more problems arose. The autopilot suddenly disengaged, forcing the captain to fly the plane manually. The first officer's instruments went blank, leaving him reliant on smaller standby instruments. The pilots were now not just lost, but flying an aircraft that seemed to be falling apart around them. In desperation, they turned to the oldest and simplest navigation instrument in the cockpit, the magnetic compass. To their shock, it showed they were on a heading of 230 degrees, flying southwest instead of east as they should have been. Their main navigation instruments weren't just slightly off, they were completely wrong. The gravity of the situation began to sink in. They were badly lost, running low on fuel, and flying over unfamiliar terrain. The first officer attempted to contact air traffic control, but they were too far out of range. They tried communicating with other aircraft, hoping to relay messages, but this too proved fruitless. As the fuel situation became critical, the captain began to consider the unthinkable: he might have to ditch the aircraft in the sea. He informed the cabin crew to be prepared for such an eventuality, knowing full well that the chances of survival in a water landing were slim to none. Just when all seemed lost, a glimmer of hope appeared. The first officer spotted a thin strip of concrete on an island below a runway. With little time to waste and even less choice, the captain decided to attempt a landing. There was just one problem: they had no idea where they were or what airport this might be. They couldn't check approach charts, review weather conditions, or even contact the control tower. They were, quite literally, flying blind. At 11:25 a.m., more than 3 hours after takeoff and hundreds of kilometers from where they should have been, Flight 782 touched down on the runway of Tambalaka Airport on the island of Sumba. It was an airport not designed to handle aircraft as large as a Boeing 737, but through skill and no small amount of luck, the captain managed to bring the plane to a safe stop. The 146 passengers and 6 crew members had survived their ordeal, but the incident was far from over. The investigation that followed unveiled deep-seated issues at Atom Air that had been festering for years. It revealed glaring deficiencies in how the airline maintained its aircraft, with repeated problems going unchecked and maintenance actions often limited to simply swapping out components or resetting circuit breakers. This created a culture where problems with aircraft were tolerated, and pilots were put under pressure to fly planes they knew to be faulty. What happened to Flight 782 was just the tip of the iceberg for an organization that was, in many ways, fundamentally broken. The consequences of these systemic issues would prove tragic. Just a year after the incident with Flight 782, another Atom Air 737 crashed into the Makassar Strait, killing all 102 people on board. The similarities between this accident and the near miss of Flight 782 were chilling. In 2008, Atom Air was banned from flying and subsequently went bankrupt. But the legacy of this incident serves as a stark reminder of the potentially catastrophic consequences of cutting corners in aviation safety. The story of Atom Air Flight 782 is more than just a tale of a navigation error or a malfunctioning piece of equipment. It's a cautionary tale about the importance of rigorous maintenance procedures, thorough pilot training, and a corporate culture that prioritizes safety above all else. It demonstrates how a series of small issues of faulty navigation unit, inadequate maintenance practices, insufficient pilot training and handling unusual situations can compound into a potentially disastrous situation. It shows how the complex systems we rely on in modern aviation can fail in unexpected ways, and how crucial it is for pilots to maintain situational awareness and not become overly reliant on automated systems. Moreover, it highlights the critical role that regulatory bodies play in overseeing airline operations and ensuring that safety standards are met. The fact that Atom Air was able to operate with such significant deficiencies for so long points to failures not just within the airline itself, but within the broader regulatory framework. In the end, the passengers of Flight 782 were incredibly fortunate. Thanks to a combination of pilot skill and sheer luck, what could have been a tragic accident ended with a safe, if unplanned, landing. But not every story ends this way. The crash of another Atom Air flight just a year later shows how thin the line can be between a near miss and a catastrophe. Today, the incident serves as a powerful case study in aviation safety courses around the world. It demonstrates the importance of a safety-first culture, rigorous maintenance procedures, and the need for pilots to trust their instincts when instrument readings don't match what they're seeing outside the cockpit. As we continue to push the boundaries of aviation technology, making air travel faster, more efficient, and more accessible than ever before, the lessons of Atom Air Flight 782 remain as relevant as ever. They remind us that in the complex world of modern aviation, there's no room for complacency. Safety must always come first, no matter the cost. The passengers and crew of Flight 782 walked away from their ordeal. But their story stands as a stark warning of what can happen when airlines prioritize profit over safety, when maintenance procedures are neglected, and when the systems we rely on to keep us safe in the skies fail in ways we least expect. It's a reminder that in aviation, as in life, cutting corners can have dire consequences. And it's a call to vigilance for everyone involved in the aviation industry, from pilots and engineers to regulators and airline executives. The skies are safer today because of lessons learned from incidents like this one. But as long as humans fly, the potential for error will always exist. The story of Atom Air Flight 782 serves as a powerful reminder of why we must never stop striving for the highest standards of safety in aviation. Because in the end, the lives of passengers and crew depend on it.